Welcome to True Crime with Strategic Eyes.
Strategic back again. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this late night edition of True Crime with Strategic. I want to thank you guys, first of all, for joining me today. So everybody who comes in the room, please make sure that you hit that like button. Today, we're going to be talking about Andrew McGann, the Devil's Den killer. We're going to be talking about his disturbing history with his students and young girls. So we're going to jump right into this. We're going to start off by actually reacting to Nancy Grace diving into this. I think Nancy Grace did a really good job drawing those connections together and talking about his disturbing past. We're going to look at some other material as well. So it's going to be a really good show packed with information as we try and get into the mind of this killer who may have had ulterior motives for going after this particular couple on that fateful day. So once again, make sure you hit that like button, you thumbs up, and you engage in a chat to help us get into the algorithm. Guys, this is going to be a really good show. Let me set everything up, and then we'll jump right into this. Really kind of sink our teeth into it. Let's do it.
He gave her a bad feeling. He put off a bad vibe.
Something is wrong with him.
Hikers on that trail that came in contact with McGann, the alleged Devil's Den double killer, said he gave a bad vibe for many different reasons. And in our business, you don't discount that. You don't discount a hunch. And they were right. They weren't the only ones that got a bad vibe off this guy. Why did he bounce from school to school to school to school before he landed here at Devil's Den? Well, listen.
All right, we're going to jump into that, man. Big shout out to Nancy Grace. I just have to once again shout Nancy Grace out because we're reacting to her material, and we all know that on True Crime Strategic, we're very respectful of other content creators' material. So, guys, please make sure you go and you like and you subscribe to Nancy Grace and you give her a thumbs up for making this available to us so we can react to it. Let's do it.
Of McGann students at schools in Oklahoma and Texas.
When I said making it available to us, she didn't personally give me permission. I'm just saying put her content out there and allow smaller creators like myself to react to it without any repercussions. That is definitely a person with character. We appreciate it. Let's keep going. Sorry, dropped my mouse. Let's keep going.
Say the 28-year-old suspect was a sick pervert and his behavior was unusual. There were girls McGann would tickle at Donald Elementary School in Flower Mound, Texas. McGann would invite special girls to have lunch in his classroom while other students ate in the cafeteria. Parents report McGann's behavior to Louisville ISD and Donald Elementary staff, but everything got swept under the rug.
It's terrible. There should be massive lawsuits. I want to bring that back because my mouse dropped. We had technical issues, and that didn't really sink in. There should be a massive lawsuit for this. Let me explain something to you about law enforcement, ladies and gentlemen, across the country. There's something called e-justice. That's basically like the national database for e-justice is for New York, but then you have all types of national databases that come into one area. And when you apply for law enforcement anywhere in this country and you get your fingerprints done, you go into this database. And if you get fired or terminated or you resign from a law enforcement job, it's in that database. So if you try and be a cop anywhere in this country, once they fingerprint you, even if you don't let that agency know that you worked for a different agency prior to applying for their agency, once they fingerprint you, it comes back to them and it tells them, hey, this person was fingerprinted before for a law enforcement agency. And that agency, and sometimes they'll tell you whether they're retired, terminated, resigned, whatever. Sometimes it won't, but at least you would know who to call and get information on this prospective employee. That same metric should be for teachers. There should be, why are there 50 different licensing agencies, 50 different states that require licensing for teaching? Why can't we have one national license? Why can't we have one national registry? And if you're terminated or you fired or you resigned from a specific school district, no matter where you are in the continental United States and even in the Commonwealths, We should be able to know that you were employed as a teacher before and that you were terminated. We need to know why. And this is crazy that this guy was bouncing from teaching position to teaching position and nobody knew why. And some agencies were covering up the fact that he was inappropriate with his students. Whoever's in charge over there needs to be fired. Let's keep going.
Well, listen.
Parents of McGann's students at schools in Oklahoma and Texas say the 28-year-old suspect was a sick pervert and his behavior was unusual. There were girls McGann would tickle at Donald Elementary School in Flower Mound, Texas. McGann would invite special girls to have lunch in his classroom while other students ate in the cafeteria. Parents report McGann's behavior to Louisville ISD and Donald Elementary staff, but everything got swept under the rug.
I really don't even know what to say about that. Quote, swept under the rug. And this is according to parents of students. And it wasn't just that school. He went from that school to another to another. I wonder who was the special girl that got to have lunch, a private lunch in his classroom, while the others ate in the cafeteria. And I'd like to know what was said at those private lunches. I know, straight out to Sydney Sumner, joining us from Crime Stories, that he told one little girl, I wish you could be my girlfriend.
What?
Oh, honey. Fur would fly if somebody, a male teacher, told that to one of my children. I wish you could be my girlfriend or boyfriend. What happened, Sydney Sumner? And why was he never reprimanded? He just went.
I mean, technically, depending on the context and how the child felt, you could maybe get a charge out of that, like endangering the welfare of a child. I know it's speech and it's not action, but well, you know, maybe you couldn't get a charge out of it, but we should. There should be a charge for adults making suggestive comments like that to children. There should be. You should not be able to make a statement like that in that particular position where you're in a position of power and authority over that child. I really think that there should be some laws against it, but let's keep going. But at the very least, like Nancy's saying, he should have been reprimanded. It should be something in his folder. He should be terminated for it, disciplined for it, depending on the context. I don't know what context would be appropriate. I know that there's no way you could tell one of my children that, and I would be okay with it, but there should be a record of it. We should not be hearing about this third hand from parents who were there. We should be able to look in his employee folder and see this, see an investigation, and see what corrective action was taken as a result of his comments. But let's keep going.
School to school to school. Did nobody have the backbone to file an actual complaint? Were they that afraid they'd get sued?
It's very unclear why this elementary school teacher, who apparently never met expectations and had this history of inappropriate behavior with female students, was allowed to just move on from this job and start somewhere else.
He looks nuts. Some people, you could look in their eyes and see they need to be medicated. There's nothing healthy about how this person looks. All right, genetics doesn't make you look like that. Like, that's how he wants to look. Like, he's squinting his eyes. He's got evil in his eyes. He needed help. And people were just ignoring all of these red flags that could have probably gotten him help. If we would have identified him early on and got him the help that he needed, maybe those two parents would still be alive right now. This man was out of control, spiraling out of control for a very long time, and all people kept doing was keep brushing him to the side. Okay, let's get him out of here. Get him out of here. Nothing to see. Go to the next school. His actions could have been a whole lot worse, and I think that they were escalating to become a whole lot worse. If it wasn't for the bravery of the mother of those two little girls, the mother who lost her life with her husband, if it wasn't for her bravery, and that woman was brave, I'm going to tell you how brave she was. Not only did she take her daughters to safety, knowing that her husband was being attacked with a knife, but she did not stay with her daughters. She went back to help her husband. She went back to help her husband, which then resulted in her losing her life. I know that's not what her husband probably would have wanted her to do, but that woman had stones. She had stones. Now, I wish she didn't go back. I think her husband was sacrificing himself for that family, for those girls to have their mother. But that woman was so courageous. She did not care. She was selfless. She said, I'm going back to get my husband. And unfortunately, it didn't work out the way it was supposed to.
Were apparently very upset that McGann was able to resign and just move to a new school district and didn't face any kind of consequences for his actions. Now, that school district said they didn't find any evidence that he really was acting inappropriately with female students, but he did not meet their expectations and was allowed to resign instead of being fired.
Whoa. Sydney, I'm not going to kill the messenger, but I find it highly inappropriate to uncontrollably, like he can't stop himself from tickling little girls according to reports.
You should not be touching anybody's children at all. Period. Guys, I like to think of myself as a very machismo man. When I look in this guy's eyes, it gives me chills. And I've seen some things in my life, ladies and gentlemen, and when I look in this man's eyes, it gives me chills. Look at him. Look at him. This guy is scary. He really is scary. Let's keep going.
Harmless.
Leah.
Well, misophilia is basically a tickling fetish, Nancy. So most of the time people are using it, especially predators, because there is some type of pleasure that they'll get from the actual tickling or being tickling. And there's usually a power dynamic that occurs. And what we'll see, Nancy, with predators, it becomes almost socially acceptable because tickling appears harmless to most observers. And this desensitization process gradually normalizes.
Okay, Black Pickham. Rewind. Okay, you got to start.
Nancy is crazy. Kathleen Craighead says, I know if he unalived the couple. I wonder if he unalived the couple to get to the daughters. I really think that that's something that is possible. I think so, Kathleen. I think it's something that is definitely within the realm of possibility that was his intention or his motive. And due to the bravery of the mother, he was able to, she was able to get those girls to safety. And then she went back and unfortunately she lost her life. But I think that's what his motive was. And I think that father was fighting like hell to keep that man's attention and giving the wife enough space to get away and bring the children to safety, which she did. She did an amazing job. So I think that was his intention. Let's keep going.
At the beginning, nismophilia is a fetish where you like to tickle people, whether they want to be tickled or not, to where the victim is, they're not laughing, they're crying, they don't like it, but you keep doing it and you can't stop yourself. It's a power dynamic. Could you start that over again? You got me drinking from the fire hydrant, Dr. Janie. Too much information at once. Just slow it down for me. I'm just a trial lawyer. Go ahead.
So when we consider nisophilia, it's also considered a tickling fetish. And what we'll see, Nancy, with the tickling fetish is that there's pleasure that's derived from tickling or being tickled. And we'll see that there's usually like a dominant submission dynamics, a power dynamic at play. So when it comes,
some people are in some really weird things, man. And the more I look into the dark crevices of this world, the more I realize I am boring. I really am. I must be the most boring guy on the planet. Like, people are just into some really odd things.
Comes to our suspect and the power dynamic of him being a teacher and him tickling his students, we'll see it happen with predators because tickling usually appears harmless to observers, right? It becomes socially acceptable touch. And what we'll also see is this desensitization process that occurs, Nancy, because what happens is they gradually normalize inappropriate physical contact. And they also can build trust. They're using playful interactions to gain a child's comfort. And what we'll also see is a lot of testing of boundaries happens. They're assessing the child's vulnerability and also the adult supervision around. So predators will look at
any dude who puts his hair like this and is holding a cat, that dude's definitely a Petey-File. I'm sorry. Listen, we actually have the video we're going to show you guys later, the raw video of him going into the barbershop and all that good stuff. It's an interesting video. I haven't seen the whole thing, so we're going to watch it together, but let's keep going.
At this isolation indicator is what we call it, where they'll determine if adults will actually intervene. So when we see a lot of these warning signs that have been reported, he had excessive physical contact with the children, and he was targeting specific genders, the young girls, and he created these special relationships with these students, and the boundary violations in professional settings that was reported that some of the parents recognized as actually a grooming behavior.
You know what this is telling me? To Tom Green, former Chief Deputy Washoe County Sheriff's, you're hearing what Dr. Janie Lacey is saying. And to me, this is giving credence to the theory that McGann tried to grab one of the little girls, or both, ages 7 and 9, typically 1, to either molest them or something else like the tickling to feed his own fetish, and the parents stopped him.
That's right. I think that happened too.
That's absolutely a rational theory.
Or I think that's a great theory by Nancy Grace, but I think more likely he's not trying to grab the victims while their parents are there and not immobilized. I think he saw this family. He saw them in these secluded area. He immediately said to himself and made up his mind that he's going to attack them. And then after he would immobilize the parents by taking their lives, then he would have access to the 2 girls. So I don't think that it was get the girls first and then the parents come to save the girls. I think it was a coordinated attack. I'm going to take the parents out first, and then I'm going to get the girls. I just think that the father put up a really good fight, which gave the mother the space to get away with the girls, because I think they understood that those children were in danger, that's probably what his target was. Maybe he said something about it, or maybe not, or maybe it's just instinct. And then once the mother got the girls to safety, then she came back, and we know what happened after that. But I think that both of those theories are working theories, and they're both possibilities. But we know for a fact, based off of his history that we're talking about right now, that Nancy is exposing right now, that these girls were the target. He's just not out there, just ending people just for the hell of it. I'm sure the thrill was, he got something out of the thrill of doing it too. I could see him having that as well in his spirit. But certainly he wanted those girls. But I think he went for the parents first before he went for the girls.
And we can't forget, Nancy, that the 9-year-old was the same age as the children that's going to be in the class he was about to start teaching in a week, 10 days out? What if she was going to be a student in this class?
Tom, that's important. Whoa, that's important. I want to follow up with that. Dr. Janie Lacey, that's important because perps, especially, typically have an age and a sex and a type. Here's an example. Not exactly on point, but look at Ted Bundy. If you look at his victims, so many of them looked the same for a long period of time until he got completely out of control and would just basically attack anybody that he could get close to. But at the beginning, he would pick out one woman after the next, as I recall seeing their pictures side by side, all thin, white females, dark hair, similar facially, hair parted down the middle, as I'm just recalling them off the top of my head. That was his preferred victim, whether consciously or subconsciously. And Tom Green pointed out the girls that age are the same girls as these victims, particularly the 9-year-old.
Well, he said it, Nancy, that he targeted his preference and he showed excessive favoritism towards this particular age range. And also he had access to them because this was the age range of which he was teaching. So it's by no accident, in my opinion, that he particularly targeted this family that had these young girls because they were part of his target that we have described by a lot of different people through his history.
Right.
Joining us now is a very special guest. It's Danica Harold. She is a longtime friend of the murdered mom and dad, stabbed dead on a public hiking trail, 4 families trying to protect their daughters.
Right. Yeah, I definitely want to hear this, even though we're going to get back to the topic of the show, which is basically his past as a teacher and what people have to say about that. But I want to hear what this man has to say to honor these parents who gave their lives for their children. Make no mistake, they gave their lives for their children. And that is the most honorable thing that a parent could do. I definitely want to hear about their legacy. Let's listen to it.
Carol, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
When did you learn that your friends Christina and Clinton had passed away, were killed?
About midnight between Saturday and Sunday.
How did you find out the news?
Someone sent me a news article, and I actually thought it was a hoax, so I started researching it.
Now, you've known them for a long time.
Yep, since 2016.
What was your reaction when you discovered they hadn't just passed on, that they had actually been stabbed dead?
It was
just popped in my head, and I apologize to step on this conversation they're having, but this is a PSA for you guys. And I don't know how people do it with, well, maybe some people can't. I like to go hiking. I haven't been hiking in a year. Maybe I should go hit a trail before the end of the year, before it starts getting cold, and a lot of these trails get closed down up in the Northeast. But I do like to go hiking. It's something that I developed later on in life, a passion I developed for, because it's just really beautiful going out there into the wilderness. I never go hiking without a gun. I every time I'm hiking, well, I always have a gun on me anyway, but the bottom line is, I never go hiking without a gun. It's not that I think that there's an axe murderer just lurking, waiting to get me, which is in the back of my mind. It's possible. But also wild animals, bears, bobcats, whatever you could think of. Not everybody has the ability to do that, especially if you're in like a state like New York, where very stringent with gun laws. But if you are in a state, I think Arkansas has very loose gun laws, you should have a weapon. And if you're going to go hiking, this is after the fact, this is no shade on that family and those parents. Not at all. We're just learning. That's all we're doing, learning from people's experiences. If you're going to go hiking with your family, especially with young kids, make sure you have a weapon. If you can't have a pistol, then have a knife and be ready to use it. Have some bear spray, all that good stuff. If they had some bear spray, they could have probably temporarily immobilized this guy. Maybe they could get away. Maybe they could counterattack, something to that effect. If they had a knife, then it's not a one-way fight. It's a knife fight. We both have knife fights. You still may not win, but at least you've got something to protect yourself. And it's two of you guys with knives versus his one knife, whatever. Don't go into these isolated places. Even though it doesn't happen a lot, it does happen. Don't go into these isolated places unless you have some form of self-defense. That's just my opinion. You take it for what it's worth. Let's listen to what this young lady has to say about this family.
Now, you've known them for a long time.
Yep, since 2016.
What was your reaction when you discovered they hadn't just passed on, that they had actually been stabbed dead?
It was very hard to learn that information.
Could you tell us, Miss Harrell, about the two of them? We keep hearing that they were murdered trying to protect their daughters, that the mom Christina helped her two little girls get away from the killer, and then after they were safe, in her mind, she went back to help fight the killer off her husband, and in so doing, she herself was murdered trying to defend him. Does that sound like her?
100%. They were all about their family.
Tell us what you can about...
You talk about being down for your man. Woo! Like I said, this woman is powerful, man. She is absolutely powerful. She got those little girls to safety, and then she went back for her man, man. That's amazing.
Them, because they have turned into props for the killer. We just hear they were stabbed. What can you tell us about them? How did you meet? Describe them for us.
I actually met them. They joined my co-ed volleyball league. And she would bring her daughters with to volleyball. And it turns out we had, two daughters that were the same age. So then that in turn led to us hanging out outside of volleyball. And she was just as sweet as could be.
I ran into some issues with childcare, and she offered to take my daughter overnight while I worked out of town. Didn't even bat an eyelash. And, she had to keep her over Christmas one year, and she went as far as to make sure that my daughter had the same matching pajamas as her kids.
Oh man, that's really sweet. She seems like such a nice mother and a nice person, man. In the chat, people are debating on what type of self-defense spray to have. This is important, so that's why I'm just pausing to give you some advice from a law enforcement officer. You shouldn't be using wasp spray and all that stuff. I think somebody in the chat said that a cop told them to use wasp spray. Listen, if you want to have great self-defense spray, if you can get your hands on it because it's legal in your state, follow all of your state and local municipal laws, you should try and get CS spray, not pepper spray, but CS spray. And both pepper spray and CS spray, all of them, depending on what you purchase, you can get anywhere upwards of 15 feet of spray. So, I know wasp spray, I buy it all the time myself too. It can spray really far. But if you get good pepper spray, you'll get that same distance that you get with wasp spray. CS spray will take anyone out. That's what the military uses. That's what New York State Corrections uses. I didn't know about pepper spray until I became a cop. When I was in state corrections, we use CS spray, and pepper spray is natural. It's got the natural kind of cones in it from the pepper that irritates your eyes. CS is a it's an artificial substance. They're mini crystals. They're not organic. Literal mini crystals that are grinding in your eyes. It is the most painful thing you could experience, and it doesn't just affect your eyes, but it affects your whole respiratory system, every mucous membrane in your body, down to your private parts, gets the CS in it and burns and irritates. It will give you a full 360 immobilization unless you have experience dealing with it. And it still is immobilizing, but you at least know that it's going to pass because you've already been sprayed with CS spray. So it's not as common as pepper spray, but if you could get your hands on CS spray, it will protect you. I'll spray somebody that has a knife with CS spray before I shoot them. Even though I can lawfully shoot them, if they have a knife, if I feel like I'm at a safe distance and I can use that CS without using I'll spray them with that CS because I have confidence after having been sprayed with CS myself and seen colleagues sprayed with it, that if I spray them with CS, they're going to go down to the ground and I may not have to use deadly physical force with them. I don't know why law enforcement uses pepper spray. I think it's because it's easier to clean up, whereas CS spreads. Like, you think you got it out your eyes and then you rub your eyes and it's right back in there. Like, you need days of washing yourself to get it off of your system. So let's keep going. I'm sorry for going on that detour, but I want to share that pro tip with you guys because maybe it might save one of your lives.
So you and Christina became very close.
We did. She's probably about half a mile from my house, and I'd go on walks and we'd stop at her house and we'd just sit down and visit, and she'd make some coffee or tea and our daughters would play outside.
To Murcha King, veteran trial lawyer, joining us. Murcha, again, thank you for being with us. Any kind of a perversion or fetish does not rise to insanity. And noting how he was dressed, how he obscured his tag license number, how he screeched out of there at a high rate of speed, all of that indicates pre-planning and guilty conscience upon flight. So even if he has, that doesn't rise to insanity, does it?
He did have some knowledge about what he was doing, and that what he was doing was actually wrong. So when you get to an insanity defense, that's something that his lawyers are going to have to really, really flesh out to the jury, for the jury to buy that type of defense. But as you stated, him fleeing, getting the haircut, all of those things go to show his state of mind, and that he knew whatever that he had done or whatever had happened was wrong. It was unlawful.
This guy bounced between 4 districts in 3 states. Listen.
Parents' complaints lead to him placed on administrative leave before his resignation letter. Parent Lindsay Polyak suggests if McGann had been terminated instead of allowing him to resign, the termination would have been on his record and might have raised some red flags for other teaching jobs. But since he was allowed to resign, he was hired by at least 2 other school districts and was getting ready to start the new school year in Arkansas.
Hi guys, Nancy Grace here. Are you worried about harmful cooking oils? I am. I cook for my family nearly every night of the week. And
all right, we're going to pause it there and we're going to go over to the next media that we have to kind of shed light on this guy's background. Big shout out to Deborah Bush. She says, I've been hiking and camping. I'm not afraid of 4-legged animals. I'm afraid of 2-legged kind. I carry CS spray, an 8-inch survival knife, and a blinding flashlight. Good. You are definitely prepared, man. You're definitely prepared. Good for you. Somebody else said that they accidentally sprayed themselves with CS spray inside of the car, and they could not open their eyes for an hour. I think Zoe39 said it. This is what I'm talking about, guys. It's so powerful. People are asking where to buy it. I don't know. You're going to have to do your research. It's marketed as CS spray. I'm not sure. A few people said what might be the scientific name for it, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's the substance. I just know it's CS spray. So look that up, but you have to look. I can't tell you where to buy it because it may be not legal in your state and your municipality. Of course, you want to follow all of your state and local laws, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to bring the view back to me so I can queue up the other videos real quick. But definitely, man, the reason why some states may not allow it is because it's that good, ladies and gentlemen. It's that good. So get yourself a bottle if you can. I'm telling you, upgrade instantly, because whatever you got in your pocket right now, if it's pepper spray, it's got nothing on CS spray. Let's do it.
Information we've learned tonight about the suspect accused of killing 2 people at an Arkansas state park. He used to be a teacher here in North Texas. Our Robbie Owen speaking with the parent of a former student who says something about him was always troubling.
In August of 2022, a smiling Andrew McGann appears in a now scrubbed Facebook post, introducing himself to the families of Donald Elementary in Flower Mound. What they're learning now, though, has left the community shaken.
I was shocked and horrified and saddened, but also angry, honestly, because there were signs that not all was right with Mr. McGann.
Sierra Markham's son is a former student. 3 years ago, she says he reluctantly reported that he was uncomfortable with how the first-year teacher singled out the girls in the class, bringing them extra treats and goodies, keeping some in his classroom at recess alone.
Really, the tipping point for him, I think, was when he overheard Mr. McGann tell one of the little girls, "If you were older, I would love to marry you."
What?
And that was the day he came home and started crying.
No,
3 years later, that Facebook post has become a mugshot. McGann has been charged with the weekend murders of Clinton and Cristen Brink. The couple was hiking at Arkansas's Devil's Den State Park with their 2 young daughters. The girls were able to escape. Louisville ISD released a statement confirming McGann's brief tenure at Donald Elementary, sharing, quote, "The individual was placed on administrative leave in the spring of 2023 following concerns related to classroom management, professional judgment, and student favoritism. An internal investigation found no evidence of inappropriate behavior with students."
I see this. They just did a trashy investigation, in my opinion. All right. There's levels to these investigations, right? You mean to tell me that you could not substantiate anything, any of those allegations, not even the allegations of bringing extra treats to students? So you didn't speak to any of these students with their parents' permission, of course, and say, "Hey, did you receive any treats from this teacher that nobody else received?" And not one of those students said yes. You didn't speak to these students with their parents' permission and say, "Hey, during recess, were there ever a time that you stayed back in the classroom and hung out with the teacher?" And not one of these kids said yes. Nobody's saying that he was touching them inappropriately or doing anything inappropriate. That's another level, right? Maybe he didn't get to that level yet. But you mean to tell me you could not substantiate any of these allegations, yet Yet you allowed him to resign from his position under duress. That must have meant that he was doing something. That's why he resigned under duress. Big shout out to A Lady E Portland with a $3 super sticker. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Appreciate you. I think they just made this sweep under the rug. A lot of these municipalities are worried about lawsuits and stuff. And I'm like, well, we work for the government. What are you worried about a lawsuit for? It's not coming out your personal budget. I'm not saying that we should not care about taxpayers. Of course we should. But you should just be trying to do the best job you could possibly do. Leave lawsuits to the law department. A principal should not be, and an administrator should not be thinking about lawsuits when you work for the government. That's what the law department's job is. You should be putting the best interest of the children first if you're in a school. This is crazy. This smells of a cover-up, ladies and gentlemen. Big shout out to everybody who's watching this right now. We have almost 200 people. Can you please hit that like button if you can, if you're willing to, if you want to, so we can get into the algorithm. That's all we're asking that like for, so we can get into the algorithm. Let's keep going.
But Markham isn't buying it and is angry that McGann was allowed to resign.
You know, you drop off your kids every day and you're entrusting these people, and we were literally dropping our kids off to a monster.
Yeah. Absolutely. And now you could get more lawsuits now. Whereas what a lot of these administrators don't understand, because they're not lawyers, just because you're a principal, a vice principal, a dean, or whatever, you're not a lawyer. Just because you're on the school board, because you were elected there, and you have really no, law or even political experience. It's like your first political position, the county or the town school board. That doesn't mean you understand how these things work. In all actuality, when you show that you've done your due diligence and you've done everything you could, even if a person sues, it lessens the damages that they can get. Because at the end of the day, we cannot control people's actions. There's no way you could weed out every single bad actor, that you could have an organization where nobody in that organization ever does anything illegal or damaging to another individual. But the way you react to it is what lessens the damage. So let's say he did hurt a child. If you guys did a thorough investigation, you guys acted decisively the moment you got those allegations, you terminated him, you did everything you're supposed to do. If that person sues, maybe it's the difference between them getting $50,000 versus $500,000. Because maybe you trying to cover it up will make them get $500,000 versus you doing everything reasonable, everything possible to protect the students, to protect the integrity of the institution. And the judge and the court and the jury will see that, and they'll say, well, listen, you deserve some type of damage, but we have to take into account that the school did everything they could do. The cover-up is worse than the crime, ladies and gentlemen. We've been hearing that for a very long time, and it's true. The cover-up is worse than the crime. Let's keep going.
The fact that he was allowed to continue teaching is what blows my mind.
She says her son has also been shaken by the news, but is proud that he saw something and said something. In Flower Mound, Robbie Owens, CBS News.
All right, so I'm going to go to the next article. This is very interesting stuff. Actually, let's go to the raw footage where we're going to see him kind of rolling up and going to get this haircut. And the apprehension may be a part of this video. I'm not sure. I didn't watch the whole thing. Let's see if the apprehension is a part of this video. There's no audio on this, so this is him going into Lupita's beauty salon and barbershop. All right. I've never had my hair cut by a woman before. I have a feeling it'd probably be the best haircut I ever got in my life. When I had hair, that is. I don't have any hair anymore, so that ship has sailed a long time ago. So he's kind of describing how he wants. My understanding is that when they actually did forensics on the car, they found blood in the car, other things like that. And then here's the apprehension. He still got his barber smock on. It just took it off. That's interesting. They wasted no time. And here you go. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next video. Actually, let's read this article. Then we'll end it with how the police actually caught him. Some insight on how the police caught him. So, suspect teacher, Devil's Den killer Andrew McGann, 28, had a history of disturbing behavior with young girls before he stabbed the couple. A parent whose son was one of the suspect's students described being kept in the dark about Perp's alleged inappropriate behavior with young girls. Let's keep going. Wow. Andrew James McCann, 28, was at the center of a manhunt in northwest Arkansas. Why did I say Arkansas? Arkansas. I used to say that when I was younger, Arkansas. Northwest Arkansas, after investigators said he randomly targeted Clinton and Cristen Brink at Devil's Den State Park on July 26 and fatally stabbed them. Arkansas State Police said McGann attacked Clinton, 43, who attempted to fight off the aggressor as his wife, Cristen, desperately led their two daughters, aged 7 and 9, to safety away from danger. See, the father was a hero and the mother's a hero. Father gave the ultimate sacrifice, and then the mother, well, she ended up giving that ultimate sacrifice as well to this monster. Cristen, 41, returned to help her husband, but was also fatally stabbed by McGann, who suffered injuries, my apologies, during the scuffle. So they put up a good fight, and that's good to hear. The 4-day hunt for McGann ended on July 30th when he suddenly walked into Lupita's beauty salon in Springdale, about 35 miles north of Devil's Den State Park, disheveled, looking for a haircut. Minutes after he sat on a barber's chair, detectives swooped into the beauty salon, handcuffing McGann, who still had the dark-colored cape attached to his neck. Now, I am just catching up to the story, so I'm wondering, did the beauty salon owner call the cops, or were they following him? I want to know how they found out where he was, and I guess we're going to get that in the next video that discusses how he was apprehended. Teachers from hell. In the days following his arrest, troubled claims about McGann's life have come to light, including allegations concerning his behavior as a public school teacher in Texas and Oklahoma. Between 2022 and 2023, McGann worked as a 4th grade teacher at the Donald Elementary School in Flower Mound, Texas, northwest of Dallas. However, in spring of 2023, he was placed on administrative leave over concerns related to the classroom management, professional judgment, and favoritism. The Louisville Independent School District, which includes Donald Elementary, said in a statement, parents of students at Donald Elementary School have come forward with allegations that McGann behaved inappropriately with young girls. One dad, whose son was in the suspect's 4th grade class in Donald Elementary, told the New York Post that McGann would usually be surrounded by kids, especially little girls, would tickle and ask girls to sit on his lap. This is totally and wholly inappropriate, ladies and gentlemen. Sierra Markham, whose son also one of McGann's students, told CBS News that her child also expressed discomfort with how the teacher treated female students, including that he allegedly kept some in his classroom alone during recess. Now, the reason why a lot of these male students are coming forward is because these kids are very sensitive to favoritism at that age. Kids that age want validation. They want to feel loved. They want to feel welcomed. They want to feel special. And if a teacher is giving favoritism to whichever student, they're going to pick up on that. And if the teacher, and kids aren't dumb. So if it's one student, then they'll say, okay, well, maybe that's their favorite student. We all know teachers have had their favorites. We've all been in school. We've all been that little kid who wasn't the favorite. But when you as a child are noticing that he's only gravitating toward the girls, well, guess what? We're raising very savvy children in this day and age because we're talking about these things. We're talking about Petey-Files. We're talking about sex and all the trappings and the negative trappings of it. We're talking about these things. These kids are being exposed to it. They now know what these things are, and they know how to identify when they see something inappropriate. So these young men observe this inappropriate action. They're saying, well, he's only doing this with the girls, and that's a problem because I saw True Crime was Strategic, and he told me all about those Petey-Files. And guess what? Those kids went and they told their parents. So big shout out to those kids. We're going to give them a big yay. They did an amazing job. Because what they saw was clearly beyond, like what somebody said in the chat, clearly beyond the teacher's pet. Clearly beyond that. So let's keep going. All right, so I see I got something in the email. Thank you. Appreciate that, Aki. I'm going to go check that out in a second, right after we finish with this article. McGann was allowed to resign in May of 2023 and then moved to Oklahoma, where he got a job as a 5th grade teacher at Spring Creek Elementary School in Broken Arrow for the 2023-2024 school year. A former coworker says, I always thought he was weird and something was up. A former after-school assistant who asked to remain anonymous told the U.S. Sun that she worked with McGann at Spring Creek Elementary in August of 2023 and also witnessed his alleged favoritism with girl students. Always noticed that he hung out with the female kids more than the male kids, the former coworker who was 16 years old when she began working with McGann in an after-school childcare program. I was fully unaware while working with him what happened in Texas. I was always thought he was weird and something was up. I didn't really pay no mind to it. It's very interesting. Whenever he did speak, it was quiet and very short responses. I was only 16 when I worked with him, but he just had something up. Most of the time when I tried to talk to him, he wouldn't answer, the woman added. But he'd leave at the same time I did, so we'd walk out the building together. He was always distant. When parents came to pick up their kids, he never talked to the parents. It's very interesting. And these are pictures of the apprehension. So let's go to the left in the dark part. Gloria Blasdell told the U.S. Sun that her son Jack was in McGann's 5th grade class at Spring Creek Elementary and described how parents were kept in the dark about the educator's alleged inappropriate behavior. It's crazy. I'm hoping Broken Arrow was his first teaching job, and it wasn't for lack of any, Blasdell said. We were both shocked at the news. Jack didn't want to believe it and scoured the news stories and comments trying to find any holes in the stories. But when he saw that he'd covered his license plate, he knew it had to be true. Blasdell's teenage son claimed McGann showed interest in some students but was also disengaged with others. He was nice to some students, and to others he didn't care. He always picked favorites in class, Jack said. Overall, though, he was kind of nice. I'm not sure how to feel about him. Blasdell admitted that she never had a strange interaction with McGann, but acknowledged that his arrest left her family feeling pretty weird about the situation. Broken Arrow Public School said in a statement that McGann voluntarily resigned at the end of the year to pursue employment elsewhere. McGann took a job at Norwood's Fine Arts Academy in Tulsa suburb of Sand Springs for the 2024-2025 school year. So this guy was literally working a new school year every year consistently with a new school. Like, he didn't even miss a beat. It's like he would resign as soon as the school year is over, take the summer off, find a new job by the end of the summer, and then start a new school year in a different state altogether. Like, not even in a school district down the way from where he worked before, like literally in a different state. Like, that's a red flag. We need a national registry for these people so that we can identify when they're doing weird stuff like this. He again taught 5th grade and again resigned from his position after the end of the school year. Before being arrested in capital murder charges, McGann was scheduled to start a new teaching position at the Springdale Public School System in Arkansas at the beginning of the 2025-2026 school year. It's unknown why McGann relocated to Arkansas. This is crazy. Let's go on over to this next video, and then we'll pull up the video that Obsidian sent us, which is related to the topic. Let's do it.
The manhunt is over, thankfully, in Arkansas. This is the suspect in the case of a couple who was murdered on a hike with their 2 daughters at Devil's Den State Park. James McGann, held without bond, taken into custody on Wednesday, marking the end of a days-long manhunt. He was apparently getting a haircut at the time of his arrest. He was set to start a job as a teacher in the area this fall, and in recent years taught 5th grade in Oklahoma. He is now charged with 2 counts of capital murder. Clinton and Cristen Brink were killed in front of their 2 little girls. They're 7 and 9 years old. The girls are now safe with family members. News Nation also getting this chilling police scanner audio from the day of the murders.
What's the location in the state park that we need to be responding to?
Medic 4 and Strickler. Washington County received a call from the visitor center. 2 children are there. They advised that their parents were assaulted. One was possibly stabbed. The parents are missing.
Trail. Icebox hiking down. For help.
Read that. Say again. Repeat.
Hear yells calling for help. We're hiking down.
Try to relay to the office. So we found the victims down here. They're on the lower Devil's Den Trail. Just a couple minutes. I think I see you right there. I've got two bodies down here.
Again, the suspect in this awful murder now in custody. Former FBI special agent and attorney Stuart Kaplan is with us. Stuart, I know that, like myself, you're probably curious to know the police work that went in to tracking this guy down. At this point, they haven't released a whole lot of details other than the fact they arrested him in mid-haircut.
Yeah, good morning, Marty. In this type of situation with the heinous violence that resulted in the death of, two parents to have their children be a witness, all assets are available to local.
All right, real quick, I just want to address this in the chat. We have not moderated anybody's comments, okay? People need to understand on YouTube, especially people who've been on YouTube for a long time, that YouTube can moderate comments in any chat at any time without the content creator or their mods interceding, okay? So we also have a robot moderator called Nightbot, where we have some key things in there, but it's very liberal, very generous, because we do respect free speech here. But we're not moderating anybody so far, because if anybody moderates anything, I see it. I can see the moderation, and my mods have not deleted anybody's comments. So I see some people complaining about that. That's not us. It's not us. Let's keep going.
Law enforcement, and that usually may come from its federal partners. And by way of example, beyond obviously just securing a perimeter and doing a search outwards of the crime scene, you're going to have forensic assets such as digital footprints are going to be identified with respect to most people in this day and age have a cell phone. And so there's going to be a lot of assets that can identify and locate where a person may have been at a particular time or near that location. And then it's a process of working backwards. I think I've discussed this on several of your programs in the past, which does give a lot of information to law enforcement. The next thing is CCTV. And so we would work backwards. We wouldn't expect, obviously, video recording on the mountain or on the trail itself, but law enforcement will work backwards to the nearest exit point when, in fact, there may be some video surveillance available to them. By a process of elimination, identifying potential witnesses, they'll go out and interview those witnesses. And again, they're trying to draw up a profile with respect to all of this information. And then last, which unfortunately is a timing factor, which takes the most time. In this type of crime, when we have stabbing and probably people who are trying to defend themselves, there would be DNA left behind by the individual responsible for the stabbing. Those DNA samples will be sent to a laboratory for accelerated testing. And obviously then at some point, as of yesterday, the day before, law enforcement then zero ins on this individual. And then you have, quite frankly, an excellent job by local, state, and federal partners coming together to apprehend this individual.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news.
All right. All right, let's go ahead and pull over this let's go ahead and pull over this next this really interesting video. It's going to be
live from 5 News. This is breaking news.
This afternoon, we're expecting new information from Arkansas State Police as they investigate the deadly attack at Devil's Den State Park.
Yeah, welcome to 5 News Plus. Our team is, of course, all over this right now. There is a news conference that is scheduled for 2 o'clock today at the State Police Headquarters in Little Rock, not in Lowell like it was last night at 9:30, but this time it'll be down in Little Rock. We'll, of course, bring that to you live. This all began last night with a post from a stylist at a salon that thought at the time had taken video or was cutting the hair of the suspect. We went out and visited with her earlier this morning. We're going to hear from her coming up here in just a few minutes and get an insight as to what she was going through last night, especially after she posted that video to her Facebook page.
Yes, and of course, police now have confirmed that they did arrest him at that salon. Here's some of the latest information we have right now. We have the latest mugshot of 28-year-old Andrew McGann. As we know, he was arrested around 5 last night at that hair salon in Springdale. He's in the Washington County Jail without bond, facing 2 charges of capital murder. Now, right now, we're learning that he was most recently a teacher in Sand Springs, Oklahoma. He was actually set to start as a teacher at Springdale Public Schools this year. Our reporter Kayla Davis is gathering information right now from the neighborhood where McGann was living, new to the area. She's told us neighbors saw a police presence at his home for several hours last night.
And we can tell you that when she visited the neighborhood, that there was a couple of folks that she was trying to interview. They would not go on camera. That he did live at the address there. Confirmed a huge police presence from 6 o'clock until 11 o'clock last night. And so what we're seeing here is the news video from the salon where the arrest was made last night. Here's what the stylist had to say after what happened last night.
I want to start off first by saying my condolences to the Brink family. My thoughts and prayers are with you all. I couldn't sleep last night thinking about them. And they'll always be in my heart to imagine those little girls. When I saw him, he looked pretty normal. Something did feel off about him. I noticed I was in the break room heating up my food for lunch, and I noticed a black car pulled up. The door is open, so I would see who would pull up. I came back up here, and I noticed the guy just standing over here. As soon as I saw him, something fell off about him. He looked pretty scary. He didn't look like he was okay. He was very timid. He was always with his head down, long hair covering his face. But I didn't want to speak up yesterday after seeing the photos because anything can change from when those pictures were taken, and he looked to be a lot slimmer, but as soon as I saw the pictures, I'm like, that's him. He just looked slimmer. Like I said, he was on the run. He probably didn't eat or, took care of himself. He looked pretty confused. I don't know how to describe it. I saw him. His eyes just looked sunken. Pretty kind of like soulless is what I could describe. He didn't want anything cut from the top of his head. He wanted to hide his face. He just wanted a fade on the sides. He didn't really know what he wanted, so I kind of explained to him what kind of haircut would go well with him, with what he had. Yeah, he just didn't want to touch anything from the top. Well, I was about...
First of all, I mean, he could have put a mask on his face. People still wear masks out there. But I want to address a question real quick. This is very insightful, too. And these women are very brave. And I'm so sorry that they got embroiled in this whole this traumatic event, because they have a part to play in the traumatic event, too. They feel trauma. They feel guilt being connected to this unfortunate circumstance. But somebody in the chat, I think Kalissa Cat says, Strategic, what are your thoughts on a Petey-File escalating to a double murder? Is that unusual? In this case, it is a little unusual, to be honest with you, but I think he had other things going on other than his alleged attraction to minors. I think he probably wanted to end somebody's life as well. The reason why I say it's kind of rare is because he was actually in a position where he had access to prospective victims. He had access, and it looked like he was progressing. It looks like he was experimenting with grooming, and he was kind of getting to where he needed to go, where he would eventually one day cross that threshold and really do something inappropriate. So it's kind of weird that he would choose such a violent way of getting to his goal when just being a teacher in a classroom would have given him access to victims and allow him to actually accomplish what maybe he wanted to accomplish, which is to abuse a victim. So this was a very big leap, considering his position in society as a teacher. If he didn't have the type of access that he had, then I would think, okay, he finds himself in an opportune situation where he's alone in the wilderness and it's him, these two parents, and two prospective victims. Maybe. But the fact that he has had so much access and would have continued to have access to prospective victims, it just doesn't make sense that he chose to use such a violent means of getting what allegedly he may have wanted, which is the two young victims. It is unusual to me. And because it's so unusual, I think that maybe he had other fetishes as well, aside from his proclivity to be attracted to children. He might have had infatuations with death and murder as well. And maybe, like Zoe39 in the chat said, he's just evil. There is no bounds, no restrictions to his evilness. Everything's on the table. It's a good question. Thank you for asking.
About 5 minutes into the haircut, when a man pulled up and asking about whose car that was outside, and that's when he would tell him, I believe this is your car. And he just stood quiet. I guess he felt kind of scared.
Can you point it?
As soon as I saw the
All right,
sticker.
so they did not, the hair salon people did not alert authorities. They probably just happened. Well, I don't know. I don't know what investigative techniques that they used, but apparently they saw that car and they were tracking this guy. So that's good stuff. Good stuff.
Of the evidence and stuff, I knew something was wrong, and I asked if it was if it could be related to the Devil's Den incident, and they said it could have been. Yeah, it's been overwhelming. I've never been in a situation like this, so I just couldn't stop thinking about the little girls that saw his face. He's pretty scary, dark sunken eyes, but it feels like it's too much. I could only imagine the family, the Brink family, what they're going through. Right. I saw the black car and I saw him. I'm like, okay, a couple things are checking out, but the way that he looked, it's what gave me the chills.
Not reading his name?
Yes, also with not wanting to write his name to sign in. I will say, just anyone take caution. These people can be among us. I would never realize that you could have someone in your chair that has done these horrible things, and just really be on the lookout and keep an open mind, and just try and be safe.
Yeah, good stuff, guys. We have a members only live that's going to happen after this show. It's going to also be a call-in show. We're going to actually jump into that early. It's scheduled for 11:30, but we're going to start it a little early so that I can get to bed at a reasonable time. So I hope you guys kind of got some insight. There isn't much information out there, and there aren't any victims who have come forward and said, hey, listen, this guy did something to me when he was my teacher. God forbid, let's hope that never comes out, because it didn't happen, right? We don't want there to be victims, right? But this is the information that we have so far. There's also allegations that he may have participated in the unaliving of another person in a different state. The sketches kind of look similar, but so far that state's State police has said that there's no connection so far, but they are still actively investigating. It is possible that he may have done this before, and if that's the case, then, you know, hopefully they'll tie it to him if he is the culprit, and the victims who are part of that case will get their justice as well. But once again, we don't want him to be a serial killer. We don't want there to be other victims. We have no desire in that. We want this to just be a one-off thing because it happened. We wish it didn't happen, but it did happen, and hopefully get this family justice, get these 2 surviving girls justice for what happened to their parents. Big shout out to Ellis in Wonderland, who is a recruit member. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. For all the members who are watching the show, we're going to be transitioning right now into a membership only live where we'll be doing a call-in show. We fixed that. We now have a phone number for our call-in show, and I definitely want to hear from you guys on what we're going to discuss. Guys, please make sure you like and subscribe, join the channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing now. Make sure that you hit that like button before you get out of here, and understand that the only reason why we're asking you to like the show is so that we can get into that algorithm. That's it, so that our show can be shown to a wider audience, because we do have a message that's worth being heard. We want to give a voice to the voiceless. And unfortunately, those victims aren't always heard. So ladies and gentlemen, you guys have a wonderful night. I'll see you guys on the next one. Let's cue up that outro before we get out of here. Strategic is out of here. Peace. All right, real quick, somebody in the chat said that the Devil's Den victims had 3 daughters. All right, they had a 3rd daughter who was not present that day. I just had to fact check it myself before I said it. So I want to make a correction and say those 3 daughters. Give justice to the 3 surviving daughters. So they had 3 daughters, age 7 and 9, and I can't see here the age of the 3rd daughter. But what matters most is they had 3 daughters, and those 3 daughters deserve justice. My apologies for that, and thank you for the correction from the person in the chat who caught that mistake. All right, I'll see you guys on the Members Only Live for those of you who are members. See you later. Peace.